Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to do something a little different today. We're bridging the gap between corporate burnout and, believe it or not, evolutionary biology. We really want to uncover the truth behind what so many of us call high-functioning anxiety. It's going to be a fascinating journey, looking at the clinical realities of the modern workplace, right alongside the deep, ancient, evolutionary roots of how our bodies actually respond to stress. So let's dive right in. I want you to meet Chloe. She's a 35-year-old director of product at this fast-growing fintech startup out in San Jose. Now, from the outside looking in, she's literally exactly what founders dream of. I mean, her slide decks are flawless, she never, ever misses a deadline, and she kind of has this superpower of anticipating problems before they even happen. But underneath all that polish, she was, well, vibrating at a frequency that could shatter glass. Her incredible work ethic was secretly fueled by this constant, just exhausting hum of panic. And the crazy thing is, she just assumed her anxiety was a competitive advantage, you know? She thought, well, that's just who I am. So today we're unpacking Chloe's reality. We're going to hit the high-functioning anxiety myth, the stress response system, the adaptive calibration model, the sheer cost of that adaptation, why the workplace rewards hypervigilance, and finally, how to regulate your nervous system. All right, section 1, the high-functioning anxiety myth. Okay, so the absolute most crucial point here is that high-functioning anxiety isn't actually a medical diagnosis at all. It's really just a socially acceptable way to describe a coping mechanism. What's actually happening under the hood is nervous system dysregulation. It's when your autonomic nervous system loses its flexibility and gets stuck in a chronic state of survival activation, fight, flight, or freeze, even when there's no immediate threat. So Chloe isn't just detail-oriented. Her brainstem is literally constantly scanning for danger. Because she's such a driven professional, her biology misinterprets everyday challenges, like, a vague Slack message or an unread email, as literal, existential, life or death threats. Moving on to section 2, the stress response system. Think of your nervous system kind of like the thermostat in your house. A healthy, regulated nervous system is incredibly flexible, right? It spikes the heat up when you absolutely need it, say for a major presentation, and then it smoothly turns it back down to cool when the moment passes so you can recover. But a dysregulated system, that's a thermostat stuck at 95 degrees all day, every single day. You're just running in emergency mode constantly, simply because your body never actually got the signal that the danger was over. Now, this internal thermostat is controlled by your autonomic nervous system, which has two main branches. On one side, we've got the sympathetic nervous system. This is your classic fight or flight response. It quickly, aggressively pumps your body full of adrenaline and cortisol to mobilize energy and deal with threats. On the flip side is the parasympathetic nervous system. Think of this as your rest and digest mode. It softens your physiological responses, slows down your heart rate, promotes recovery, and, crucially, allows for social connection. So together, these two systems, along with the LHPA axis, that's the limbic hypothalamic pituitary adrenal pathway, which, if we're being honest, is basically just your body's slow-release hormone highway, make up your stress response system, or SRS. The sympathetic and parasympathetic systems react almost instantly, while that hormone highway mounts the more delayed long-term responses, which eventually culminates in the release of cortisol. And what's truly fascinating here is that these systems don't just react to stress. They actually encode information about how unpredictable or dangerous your environment is. They act like a filter, deciding just how open you should be to the world around you. Which brings us to section 3, the adaptive calibration model. Now, before we actually look at this model, we need to do a little bit of semantic reframing. Because when evolutionary biologists call a trait adaptive, they definitely do not mean it makes you happy. They simply mean it increases your chances of surviving and reproducing in a specific environment. So, a massive stress response can be highly adaptive from an evolutionary standpoint, even if it makes you feel absolutely miserable and is terribly undesirable for your long-term health and happiness. Survival versus happiness, basically. So, looking at the curve of the adaptive calibration model, we can map out how our developmental context, meaning the environment we actually grew up in, shapes our stress responsivity. On the left side, in low-stress, relatively safe environments, people develop sensitive or buffered patterns. But as you move over to the right into more dangerous or unpredictable environments, the optimal evolutionary strategy completely shifts. The body develops vigilant or unemotional patterns. It is literally calibrating its own biology to survive a really harsh world. And this right here is exactly where hypervigilance comes from. If you grew up in a chaotic or unpredictable environment, staying one step ahead of danger was literally the only way to manage your fear. Hypervigilance is just a state of heightened alertness and constant threat scanning. And I really want you to hear this clearly. If you struggle with this, your brain is not broken. Not at all. It learned a brilliant, highly effective survival skill. It just, well, it doesn't realize that the original danger is actually in the past. Evolutionary biologists look at this through something called life history theory, which predicts how organisms are going to allocate their energy. So unpredictable, dangerous environments and train fast life history strategies. Because the future's totally uncertain, the biological strategy becomes, hey, get it while you can. It's very present-oriented, involving higher risk and faster maturation. Conversely, safe environments allow for slow strategies. These are marked by better self-regulation, long-term planning, and delayed gratification. Let's look at this absolutely amazing example of conditional adaptation from nature, the wood frog tadpole. When these tadpoles grow up in water that happens to have dragonfly predators in it, they physically alter their own bodies. They grow smaller bodies and these deep, thick tail fins just to survive the threat. But if there are no dragonflies around, they don't grow those features at all. Natural selection basically favors a backup phenotype that makes the best of a bad situation. And just like that tadpole, your nervous system alters itself based on the predators present in your early environment. All right, section 4, the cost of adaptation. I want you to imagine your life as a house. The upper floors, those represent your impressive adult career, your glowing resume, your current relationships. But the foundation of that house was poured back in your childhood. If you grew up with, say, a volatile parent, or in a home where love was strictly conditional on your achievements, your nervous system poured a foundation of frantic perfectionism just to keep you safe. And the kicker is, you've brought that exact same foundation right into your adult corporate life. And man, the physical toll of this strategy is just immense. Sure, you can run your career on adrenaline and cortisol for a while, but eventually, the hardware is going to burn out. Chronic sympathetic activation completely destroys your sleep, mostly because your brain is up at 2 a.m. reviewing every conversation for mistakes. It shuts down your digestion, which leads to issues like IBS and bloating. It causes you to physically brace for impact all day, resulting in severe jaw clenching and muscle pain. And that constant, endless flood of cortisol, it wreaks absolute havoc on your hormonal and endocrine systems. Let's look at section 5, rewarding hypervigilance. Because here is the harsh structural reality of the world we're operating in. Corporate America absolutely loves a dysregulated, hypervigilant employee. Why? Because honestly, you are incredibly profitable to them. Think about it. A traumatized, anxious employee is a manager's absolute dream. They're going to work the weekends without even being asked. They'll double-check everyone else's work just to be safe. They'll manage the emotional labor of the entire team, and they will rarely, if ever, ask for a raise out of fear of rocking the boat. The modern workplace actively, systematically rewards your biological panic with promotions and bonuses, which makes the cycle incredibly difficult to break out of. Finally, section 6, regulating your nervous system. So how do we fix this? Here are 4 highly actionable somatic steps to start recalibrating your body out of survival mode. First up, somatic awareness. You have to actually notice the physical activation. Is your chest tight? Is your breathing shallow? Just name it. Step 2, somatic regulation. You need to actively signal safety to your body. Do some 4-6 breathing, in for 4, out for 6, or literally just press your feet firmly into the floor. Step 3, challenging the catastrophe. Once your body is a tiny bit calmer, use your prefrontal cortex to ask yourself, okay, what is the actual factual threat here? And step 4, which is definitely the hardest part, tolerating good enough. You have to practice the extreme, agonizing discomfort of, say, sending an email with a typo in it or logging off right at 5 p.m. You have to teach your body that imperfection does not equal death. And I really want to reassure you here, healing does not mean you're going to lose your edge or stop caring about your work. It simply means you're changing your fuel source. You are expanding what's called your ventral vagal circuit. That's the part of your nervous system associated with safety, rest, and connection. When you do this, you still handle crises, you still perform beautifully, but you're doing it from a place of grounded, regulated choice and competence, rather than frantic, survival-based panic. It's a total game changer. Which leaves us with a final, absolutely crucial question to ponder. Are you going to keep outsourcing your nervous system's regulation to your environment, constantly relying on corporate praise and endless productivity just to feel safe? Or are you ready to finally reclaim your biology and teach your body that rest is safe? The choice to recalibrate is entirely yours. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope this gives you the tools you need to start building that true internal safety,